So the painting behind me is by Salvador Dali. It's called The Persistence of Memory. And so in this video, we're going to learn about the different kinds of brain areas that are responsible for different kinds of memory. And if you recall, like a lot of this was from it's stuff that we've learned from patients with brain lesions who do not actually have persistence of memory. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so under memory, we can divide that into several different categories, and we can divide actually this even further, but this is a good kind of overall breakdown. So there's working memory. Working memory lasts for less than 15 minutes. So this is the kind of memory you use if someone, tells you something, like they tell you their phone number and you put it in your phone, something like that. Then there's longer term memory, which is anything over 15 minutes. There we have declarative memories and non-declarative memories. So non-declarative memories are memories that can't be consciously recalled. And so we have emotional learning, so fear learning or learning that someone is safe, that kind of thing, emotional learning, and skill learning, so learning how to do something, right? So often we call this muscle memory, but it's not really in our muscles, it's in our brain. And all right, over here we have declarative memories, which are memories that can be consciously recalled and told. So there's semantic memory, which is facts and knowledge, and episodic memory, which is past personal experiences. So which of these is a declarative memory? Yeah, so the first one is not. It is a skill, like how to ride a bicycle. That's classic, like muscle memory skill learning. Um, B, however, is what bicycle you learn to ride a bike on. That is a fact. Or that for semantic memory, and then the memory of what you did to learn to ride a bike, that would be a episodic memory. The feeling of pain when you fell the first time, that is an emotional memory, and often emotional memories are kind of like what we call our gut feelings, like they warn us to do something or to not do something. When we get in a situation, we don't quite know why, but we have this kind of emotional feeling about situations that we get into. Okay. We can also divide memory based on time. So anterograde amnesia is an inability to establish new memories. Retrograde amnesia is difficulty retrieving memories that have already formed. Okay, so like movie amnesia is retrograde amnesia, but anterograde amnesia is also very important. Like if you can't establish new memories, that is bad. Like you can't learn things. So what kind of amnesia did EP demonstrate in the video relative to um, relative to his lesion? Yeah, so in the video, he mostly showed anterograde amnesia. So it showed that he can't form new memories, and he hasn't been able to form new memories since he was injured. Right, because they gave him a list of 4 things. He was able to repeat them right away, but after 15-20 minutes, he was no longer, he was just guessing, right? Like he had no clue what animals had been told to him. Um, the other hand, his childhood memories are great. He was able to tell you exactly how to ride your bike to get from point A to point B based on his childhood hometown. Um, and there were other memories too that were missing. He moved to his neighborhood after his lesion, and so he had no idea like what street he was living on, any of the streets around him. He was unable to form those memories even after several years of living in that house, just because it was after he had gotten sick and his hippocampus was damaged. So that's what we saw in the video, but it turns out in hippocampal lesion patients, so people have delved more into EP and other hippocampal lesion patients. In general, they can't do, they have anterograde amnesia for declarative memories. They also lose declarative memories from roughly a year prior to the lesion. So that year before the hippocampus is damaged, they lose that too. And they lose everything. They can't make new memories. But anything older than a year before the lesion is fine. So what we have here for declarative memory in these patients is a combination of anterograde amnesia plus some retrograde amnesia. And we can, I tried to put this graphically for healthy people, right? Like um, the further something was in time, the lower the probability that you remember it, right? So things that happened yesterday, people remember well. Things that happened 2 years ago, less well, so on and so forth. Okay. But for people, for EP, for example, if this is the time of his injury, and this is, by the way, just declarative memory, not the other kinds of memory. For declarative memories, anything that happened after his lesion, he was unable to learn it, and it was unable to go into memory. And then he also lost basically the year before the injury as well. He has a very low probability of remembering things, but anything like his childhood or from well before the lesion, like his career, right, he was able to remember that quite well. And so this part here, after the injury, being unable to learn new things, that would be characterized as anterograde amnesia. And then the retrograde amnesia, it's temporally graded. So that just means it differs based on how long before the lesion it happened. So right before the lesion, that year before the lesion, can't remember it. But further back in time, he's fine. So what does this pattern of deficits tell you about the role of the hippocampus in memory, and how do you know? Well, it kind of tells you two things, right? Because based on kind of the two halves of the problem. One is that he can't make new memories. So this must be in the hippocampus must be involved in declarative memory formation. Also, it's interesting though, you lose a year, but everything before a year is basically okay. So that means that the hippocampus must store memories for roughly about a year. But after a year, they go somewhere else. And so where do they go? They probably are stored in the rest of your cerebral cortex up here. All right, so that's what the hippocampus helps you make new memories. It stores them for about a year, and then they go to your cerebral cortex for declarative memories. So summarizing a lot of work from a lot of people here, people missing their hippocampus, this is kind of what they can do. So these are the things the hippocampus is not involved with. Working memory. So EP, he can recite that list of 4 words just fine, moments after someone has given them to him. This is handled by the cerebral cortex as well, especially the front of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. Emotional learning. Even though EP doesn't know Jennifer's name, he knows that she's somehow familiar and that she's a friendly person and he likes her. This is handled by emotional areas like the amygdala, and the amygdala in particular handles fear and fear learning. And then finally, skill learning. So that wasn't demonstrated in this video, but other hippocampal lesion patients can learn physical skills like looking in a mirror and copying what you see in a mirror. It takes a little bit of skill, right? Because you have to like reverse everything. But that's a skill you can get better at, and people with hippocampal lesions can get better at that. And that's because skill learning is handled by motor areas such as the basal ganglia and the cerebellum. And so I've put that I've summarized that all here on this map. So working memory, cerebral cortex, non-declarative emotional memory, amygdala, still learning the basal ganglia and cerebellum, and declarative memories, and this goes for both semantic and episodic memories. It's complicated because you can actually break it up even more, right? The hippocampus for learning these things, the hippocampus for short-term storage. So in a person, that's about a year. In a rat or a mouse, you know, that might be like a month or something. and then cerebral cortex for longer term storage than that. So that's all.